Throughout the forested hills and shadowed hollows of Kentucky, tales of mysterious creatures have circulated for generations, passed down through families and communities like treasured heirlooms. Among these legends, werewolves occupy a particularly fascinating space in the state's folklore landscape, blending European traditions with distinctly Appalachian and Southern elements. These legendary shapeshifters, humans capable of transforming into wolf-like creatures, have embedded themselves into Kentucky's cultural consciousness, emerging in stories told around campfires, in hushed conversations on front porches, and increasingly in formal documentation of unexplained phenomena across the Commonwealth. Werewolves, in their traditional conception, are humans cursed or blessed with the ability to transform into wolf-like creatures, typically during full moons or other significant celestial events. The transformation is often portrayed as painful and violent, with bones cracking and reshaping, skin stretching, and fur erupting from human flesh. Once transformed, werewolves are generally depicted as powerful predators with superhuman strength, heightened senses, and an uncontrollable bloodlust that drives them to hunt and kill. The mythology suggests that werewolves are vulnerable to silver, whether in bullet, blade, or amulet form, and that the condition can be transmitted through bites or scratches, spreading like a supernatural contagion among the population. These creatures exist in the liminal space between human and beast, representing our most primal fears about losing control and surrendering to our darker instincts. Kentucky's relationship with werewolf lore has a distinctive regional character, informed by the state's unique blend of wilderness and settlement. The dense forests and rugged terrain of Kentucky's eastern mountains and western woodlands provide an ideal setting for legends of creatures that lurk just beyond the edge of civilization. Early settlers brought European werewolf tales with them, but these stories evolved over time, incorporating elements of Native American skinwalker legends and frontier anxieties about the untamed wilderness. Kentucky's werewolves often reflect the state's contradictions. They are creatures that represent both the wild freedom of the forest and the dangers of straying too far from established communities. Sightings typically occur in rural areas, particularly those with historical significance or natural features that inspire awe and trepidation. Perhaps the most famous Kentucky werewolf legend is the Beast of Land Between the Lakes, commonly known as the LBL Beast. This creature allegedly haunts the 170,000-acre recreation area spanning Kentucky and Tennessee, created when the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers were dammed to form Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. According to local lore, the beast is responsible for a series of mysterious disappearances and violent deaths in the area, with some accounts claiming it massacred an entire family camping in the region during the 1980s. Witnesses describe the LBL Beast as standing between 6 and 7 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown or gray fur, with a wolf-like head, glowing red or yellow eyes, and unusually long arms ending in sharp claws. The creature is said to move with unnatural speed and agility through the forest, often emitting bone-chilling howls that echo across the lakes on quiet nights. What makes the LBL Beast particularly intriguing is how it blends werewolf characteristics with elements of other cryptids, creating a uniquely Kentucky monster. Beyond the LBL Beast, Kentucky has accumulated numerous other werewolf sightings across its varied landscape. In the Appalachian regions of eastern Kentucky, locals speak of the hillbilly beast, a werewolf-like creature said to prey on livestock and isolated homesteads. The creature reportedly stands upright like a man, but moves with the speed and grace of a wolf, leaving behind mangled carcasses and large, unusual footprints. In the western coal fields, miners have reported encountering glowing eyes and massive shadowy figures at the entrances to abandoned mines, leading to theories about werewolves using these underground spaces as daytime refuges. The bluegrass region has its own variations, with sightings often connected to historic properties and old family lands, suggesting generational curses or long-standing supernatural phenomena. These regional variations reflect Kentucky's diverse geography and cultural influences, creating a tapestry of werewolf lore unique to the state. The role of werewolves in Kentucky folklore extends beyond mere monster stories to serve important cultural and psychological functions. These legends often function as cautionary tales, warning against wandering alone in the wilderness, especially after dark or during full moons. They reinforce community bonds by creating shared experiences through storytelling and collective fear management. In some cases, werewolf legends have been used to explain real-world tragedies or disappearances, providing communities with narratives that help process otherwise inexplicable events. The werewolf also serves as a powerful metaphor for the duality of human nature, particularly in a state where many communities have had to balance their reliance on nature with their fear of its unpredictability and danger. Kentucky's werewolf tales reflect the complex relationship between the state's people and its wild spaces, embodying both reverence and fear. Folklorists and anthropologists have proposed various theories to explain the persistence of werewolf legends in Kentucky culture. Some suggest that these stories originated as ways to explain violent crimes or serial killings in rural areas where such events were otherwise incomprehensible to tight-knit communities. Others point to the psychological projection theory, arguing that werewolves represent the shadow aspects of human nature that communities needed to externalize and condemn. Economic and environmental factors play a role as well, with werewolf sightings often increasing during periods of resource scarcity or environmental change, when wilderness seems to encroach upon civilized spaces. The isolation of many Kentucky communities historically may have contributed to the development and preservation of these legends, as limited outside contact allowed local mythologies to flourish undisturbed by skepticism or alternative explanations. These theories suggest that Kentucky's werewolf lore reveals as much about the people who tell these stories as it does about the creatures themselves. The impact of werewolf legends on Kentucky's cultural landscape cannot be overstated. These stories have inspired local artists, writers, and filmmakers, contributing to a rich tradition of regional horror and supernatural fiction. Tourism has benefited as well, with cryptid hunting expeditions and supernatural tours drawing visitors to areas associated with werewolf sightings, particularly around land between the lakes. Local businesses capitalize on these legends with themed restaurants, gift shops, and annual festivals celebrating the state's monstrous heritage. Beyond economic impacts, these legends have helped preserve oral storytelling traditions in an increasingly digital age, as younger generations continue to share and adapt these tales for contemporary audiences. The werewolf has become part of Kentucky's cultural identity, a symbol of the state's connection to its wild spaces and its appreciation for the mysterious and unexplained. As Kentucky continues to evolve, balancing rural traditions with urban development and technological advancement, its werewolf lore adapts accordingly. Modern sightings often incorporate elements of conspiracy theories, government experiments, or environmental contamination to explain the creature's origins. Social media and online forums have created new spaces for sharing encounters and theories, connecting isolated communities and standardizing previously localized legends. Despite these changes, the core elements of Kentucky's werewolf traditions remain remarkably consistent. The transformation, the wildness, the danger, and the undeniable connection to the land itself. These enduring qualities suggest that as long as Kentucky retains its forests and mountains, its night skies and hidden hollows, werewolves will continue to prowl through the imagination of its people, bridging the gap between the Commonwealth's past and its future. The werewolves of Kentucky, whether real creatures or powerful symbols, represent something essential about the state's character and history. They embody the tension between civilization and wilderness that has defined Kentucky since its earliest days of settlement. They give form to our deepest fears about losing control, surrendering to our primal instincts, and facing the unknown that lurks just beyond the light of our campfires and front porches. Perhaps most importantly, they remind us that no matter how modern and rational our world becomes, there will always be mysteries in the shadows of Kentucky's hills and hollers, stories that resist simple explanation, and reasons to gather together against the coming darkness. As long as people continue to venture into Kentucky's wild places and return with tales of encounters they cannot explain, the legend of the Kentucky werewolf will continue to evolve, adapting to new fears and fascinations while remaining rooted in the rich soil of the Commonwealth's storytelling tradition.